It's not going to be easy, and everybody ain't going to like the process. But when it's all said and done with, my job is to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
After 20 years, you know we back on. No more Snyder, more McLaurin. One full with the passion, you know we scoring. FedEx field back lit, no it is not boring. John Allen lead the troops, yeah you know we storming. Burgundy and gold in my veins, yeah I bleed that. St. Jude saw the ball, grab a pig, yeah I need that. YouTube, what's going on? It's Juan Gotti here. We enter the Washington Commanders video, and in today's video, we're going to be listening to Bieniemy's press conference post-training camp practice today because there was a lot of drama. Players are not liking how Bieniemy is coaching. Ron Rivera said something about it. Let's talk about it and watch what EB has to say. Without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. But before we do, make sure you guys go down below, leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and turn on post notifications so you get notified when I upload new content like this to the channel. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button again if you haven't already. Thank you so much. Let's get straight to it.
Working their tails off. We've had some highs, we've had some lows, but the thing that I appreciate about them is that they embraced it and they're learning. First and foremost, they're learning a lot about themselves. They're learning a lot about what it takes, all right, but also too, they're growing together. That's the fun part, and it's fun watching that growth process. So with that said, I'm all ears.
So along those lines, and you know that you have a reputation for being, you have some intensity about you. So I'm curious, like, you know, Ron was talking about how, like, some players maybe had to get used to that, and they went to him and expressed and said, hey, sit down with Eric and kind of go over stuff. What is, you know, how do you approach that, and, you know, how do you feel about that, and just having to deal with guys who maybe aren't used to that quite as much?
Well, first, before I say anything, or before I let EB talk, sorry that it's blurry. It's not me. It's their camera because it's blurry for me, too.
First of all, one thing I'm an open book, and I always invite players in. But also, too, as I've gone through this process, yes, I am intense. And I would be afraid, too, to start if I didn't know him. But on top of that, one thing they do appreciate is this. I'm always going to be upfront, and I'm always going to be honest. Just like I stated when I first got here. We all got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, okay? There's some new demands and expectations that I expect. I expect us to be the team that we're supposed to be. It's not going to be easy, and everybody ain't going to like the process. But when it's all said and done with, my job is to make sure that we're doing it the right way. There's a way to do it. Now, do they understand that? Yes, because they're seeing the results. Will everybody buy in? I believe so. But if not, it's okay. Because you know what? My number one job is to help take these guys to another level. And I can see it. Because when you think about where we started in the spring to where we are right now, we're making a lot of strides. I'm proud of these guys. It's been some, excuse my language, some good shit to watch.
And let me now jump in. A lot of players were frustrated, you know, with how Bieniemy has been working camp. He's too hard. He's too, you know, demanding. But these are some of the same players that, you know, talked about Scott Turner last year, and he was the total opposite. You know, and yes, it's easy for me to talk, you know, about it because I'm not the one actually out there. So to a certain extent, I understand where the players are coming from. But at the same time, this is the time where you're putting in all the work, where it's going to be hard. So the games are easy. The games are supposed to be the fun part. You're supposed to go out there and have fun with the actual Sunday game. The practice, the training camp is where it's going to be hard, grueling, and you're not going to like it. But you got to know where it is going to come in the long run, where this is going to be paying off in the long run. This is Bieniemy, a two-time offensive coordinating Super Bowl champion, man. This isn't a Scott Turner. This isn't a Jay Gruden. This is a guy that's been proven. So you guys that, you know, are, you know, just frustrated with how he's coaching and he's too hard on you, man. It is what it is. How bad do you want it?
I've heard that said a couple times out there. But in examining the way you coach, right? Have you ever said, I wonder if I have to tone it down at all, or do you just say, this is how I am, and I'm just going to roll with that?
I've been coaching since I retired from football. So you got to understand this. With the group, I'm always going to remain the same. I'm always going to be loud, and I'm always going to be vocal. I'm always going to demand from our leaders. But on top of that, I'm watching everything, okay? Body language. how we're addressing the huddle, how we're getting up to the line of scrimmage, how we're presenting ourselves. Those things are important because you got to send a message to the defense. And so I want our guys to clearly understand that we're not taking anything for granted. So when it's all said and done with, do I spend time with players? Yes. You guys have been here. You see me pull players over to the side and have long discussions with them, just so we're always on the same page. So Eric Bieniemy is who he is, okay? Eric Bieniemy knows how to adapt and adjust. Eric Bieniemy is a tough, hard-nosed coach, but also understand I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan because I got their back and I'm going to support them at all times.
Man, EB is dropping some great quotes, that people can use. But honestly, man, that's what it is. He's a hard coach. He's a coach that every team needs. Again, he just said it. He is your hardest and biggest critic. But when it comes to the support and and seeing the actual progress be made, he is going to be your #1 fan. And that's what some of these players have to realize. It's not personal. It's just to get you better than where you were. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired as a fan of being average 8-8-1, 7-10, 7-9, whatever. I'm tired of that as a fan. So I can only imagine what guys like Terry McLaurin, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, all these guys, Deron Payne that's been here and that's been losing, that's been a part of average, they're tired of that too. So I think some of these players that are having concerns of how hard the practices is are just not used to having a coach like that, so they just got to get used to it, man.
How has the flow of camp kind of played into that where, you're kind of ramping up with pads and then scaling back? Like, do you find yourself having to adjust to the day at all?
It's camp. No adjustments necessary. The only thing I want our guys to do is to make sure when they leave the building, okay, go home and study. Get you a good night of sleep, and when you wake up, make sure your mind, body, and soul is ready to go, because when we step into this building, just like I've said before, there's an imaginary sign outside that says hiring all applicants. I want our guys to understand every day we're interviewing for a job, right? There's some big-time competition. I want to see guys become great. And I tell them all the time, I'm selfish. I like seeing players become great players. I like people who love to exceed their expectations. So it's my job to make sure that I can get everything out of them together and collectively.
What's your philosophy, or what are some indicators you see when you feel like you kind of have to make a change in personnel, or you would go to Ron and say, I think we should play so-and-so instead of that? Like, what are kind of what's your philosophy?
Well, anytime there's a decision to be made, collectively we'll all sit down and discuss that. Obviously, the head coach will always be involved in everything, but that's just something that we do collectively as a staff. On top of that, the head coach is always involved. But one thing about our staff, there's an open dialogue. And first and foremost, let me go back to say this, okay? Because we're not giving our staff enough credit. We got a hell of a coaching staff that's doing a hell of a job. And I don't know if you guys have recognized, but this offensive unit has improved. They're working their tails off. All right? They're fine-tuning the details. All right? And our coaching staff, not only have they bought in, but they got their guys producing. So we got a hell of a staff. But one thing that we've learned collectively as a staff, communication is always the key to success. We do a great job of keeping our lines of communication. There's nothing that goes unsaid. Good, bad, or indifferent. We want to talk through and work through every issue. So when it comes down to personnel, we always sit and have those discussions. Sometimes those discussions are tough. When we leave that room, we all locked arm in arm, and it's time to go to work.
Hey, Coach, you're in the 3rd week of camp. Where have you seen the most improvement, and from who?
You know what? I don't know if I can just point out one individual. It's been a number of players. All right, because there's been some highs and lows, and you don't ever want camp to be one-sided. Sometimes when you see me, I'm walking out the field and my mouth is all in a certain way. Obviously, we probably got our ass kicked that day, but our guys are working hard. I think the quarterback position, Jacoby and Sam have been playing their tails off. Jake as well. The running backs have been competing their tails off. All those guys are working, watching these young receivers and these young tight ends, and then watching these O-linemen work. It's been fun collectively watching these guys compete, but on top of that, watching the growth process. And I'm only asking them each and every day, just work on 3 things. Find 3 things to work on. All right, I know practice is not going to be perfect, but if there's 3 things that you can address, define what those 3 things are. Then if you're making that necessary adjustment and working on those things, we got a chance. And that's what I'm seeing from each and every group. And that's been the fun part. That's why I know guys are buying in and they have belief in what we're doing.
Hi. Have there been instances where players have, struggled to adapt to your coaching style and have come up to you and had a conversation about it?
And so before it even goes anywhere, I make it the point to address the conversation. Because one thing, my job is to be very observant. I got to know the people that I'm discussing and working with. So my job is to address. If there's something that they may have an issue with, please, let's discuss this. Here's the reason why I felt a certain way. Here's why I said it. Now, okay, I put it back on the player. And you got to understand, we're in a grown man's business. We're in a grown man's world. My job is to make sure that I'm doing the best possible job of over-communicating clarity. I take a tremendous amount of pride in that. They also know when I'm getting on them, ain't nothing personal. What's personal is that I want us to win. I expect that particular player to be great at all times. I expect the effort to be a standard that's accepted by all of us. So when you're not reaching that, it's my job to address it. So sometimes they may like the highlights and the praise, but sometimes they may not like it. And I'm perfectly fine with that, because that's my job. Because if I ain't doing my job, my ass get fired. So it's my job and my responsibility to make sure that I'm getting our guys to do what I expect them to do.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I can listen to Eric Bieniemy talk all day. I can listen to him talk all day. Now, he basically was addressing the same thing that Ron Rivera addressed earlier. Basically, the reporters asked Ron Rivera, some players were not buying into EB or having some concerns about EB. And Ron said, how about that? Hey, go talk to Eric Bieniemy. And now Eric Bieniemy is saying he has some players to come talk to him, or before he even gets to them having to talk to him, he addresses it and let them know what it is. It's not personal. It's a grown man's league. And we're just here so we can win. So, again, man, I can't talk because I'm not a player. So, to a certain extent, I understand where some of these players are coming from because they never had this coaching before. But at the same time, if you want to be great, which I know every player is in it for a specific reason, whether it's to win a Super Bowl, whether it's to secure as much money as possible for your family, y'all all have y'all specific goals. But it all goes back to you having to be good to achieve those goals. You're not going to get all the money in the world in the NFL if you're bad. You're not going to win a Super Bowl if you're bad. So it all goes back to you having to work and compete in the summer days. So in fall, winter, wherever, you shine.
I have an actual football question, too. How do you feel the O-line is coming together?
You know what? Our young O-line, they're doing a heck of a job. Like I said, there's been ups and downs. There's been some days that hasn't been as good, but there's been some days they've done a hell of a job. And the thing that I'm loving about that group is that they're having fun together. O-line groups are very, very unique because everything is based on communication. They probably do more communicating with each other than any other position outside the quarterback. And so I love seeing the personalities develop. These guys are working. We got some big, strong guys up front that are tough, that are hard-nosed. And then here's the thing that's kind of unfair, which it is good in a sense, obviously, because we're on the same team. But think about the guys they get to work against, okay? Those guys get to help them to become better professionals. So what better challenge than to face the front four that we're seeing every single day? I love it. I live for it. And I can see the improvement in our guys. Now, has it all been perfect? Nah. It's not what training camp is about. It's about working and fine-tuning and learning how to grow together and become one as a team. And then once we start putting the pieces together, everything else will make us into that fine oil machine moving forward. So I love where they are right now.
Another football question for you. How do you view the development of Sam Howell?
You know what? Sam is doing a good job. Sam's actually doing a hell of a job. I think sometimes early in camp you can see where he was overthinking. But we've been putting a lot on our players, been putting a lot on his plate, because I want him to understand there's a thing that you got to do. You got to process everything. And the thing that I've loved, I've seen the growth. You can see when he's confident, he's coming off the mound, releasing that ball. It's a thing of beauty. It's been fun watching this growth process, and I think the sky can be the limit for this kid.
How would you view the situation with Sam and Jacoby kind of going forward?
You know what? Both those guys, first of all, Jacoby's doing a hell of a job. Jacoby has had a great camp as well, okay? Jacoby has been competing. He's been doing everything that a veteran quarterback is supposed to do. He's led. He's shown by example. You know, he's been a voice for Sam. He's been a great voice in that quarterback room. And he's been a guy that just allows his personality to show. And Sam has gravitated to that, and he's seeing what it takes. And you got to understand, Sam is one of those kids, every day is a new day for him because he's never done it, and this is the first time for him every single day. So now he's like a kid in the candy store. He get to observe what Jacoby is doing, and some of that stuff is feeding right off of Jacoby, and it's feeding right into him. And they have an outstanding relationship, in my opinion, but it's been fun watching this group grow together.
Just last one. How do you view a young guy like Howell going into the preseason? How much work does he need when there's not a long book there?
Well, I'll say this. First and foremost, we're going to have that discussion on playtime with Coach. But, I mean, just like anything and everything, we all need work. All of our guys need to go out and play against a different opponent. Let's see what we can do collectively together.
Last one.
For the offense, young and installing a new offense.
I'm sorry. There's a goddamn... I'm sorry. I don't want to swallow it either and be on national damn TV.
How important is it for you when they see, if they make a mistake outside and you guys get inside in the meetings watching the film, are you pleased with how they are reacting to that?
Of course. You know, it's open dialogue. I wish all of y'all could be in there. And I make them talk. I want to hear what they're thinking. But on top of that, I want them to understand this, okay? Indirectly, we all impact each other's lives. I always discuss what accountability means. So sometimes I think we get caught up in the individualism of a team sport rather than seeing the big picture. So if I'm trusting that you're supposed to be somewhere or you're supposed to do something, I'm trusting that you're going to do that. So when you do not do what we're all expecting you to do, you're impacting our career. So when that individual becomes greater than the good, it's not a good thing. It's my job to point that out and make guys understand that, listen, we all in this together, all right? We got to make sure that the man next to me becomes by far the most important person. When that man becomes by far the most important person on that particular moment, in that particular play, now I know we got a team. Now we got to now we got a chance. Excuse my language. Y'all see I'm getting fired up.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Man, I love Eric Bieniemy, dog. I can listen to him talk all day, like I said. But we already knew coming into this press conference that was going to be the main topic. These players and what do you have to say about these players, you know, kind of going against what you have put in front of them to a certain extent. And EB handled it as a professional and the right way. Again, these players, they're probably, you know, frustrated now because it's hot, it's summer, but they'll be thankful down the line. And I guarantee you, if we have the success that this team could potentially have with Eric Bieniemy, they're going to look back on it and be like, you know what? Eric Bieniemy was the guy, and he was what we needed here in Washington. You know, and especially if we have a successful season and Eric Bieniemy leaves for another head coaching job somewhere else, a lot of these players that are complaining now, they're probably going to miss Eric Bieniemy a lot. So again, man, it's football. It's summertime. This is what Washington's been missing that we've been needing for years, man. So I think we'll be good. I think everything is going to be fine. And once we start to see the results, that's when the players are going to start to see what Eric Bieniemy was all about. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. As always, being boy Juan Gotti. Like, comment, subscribe. Hail to the Washington Commanders. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers. So please hit that subscribe button again if you haven't already. Thank you so much. See y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.